Hey there, Legal Tea listeners. This is your host, Jenny Roselle. Today's episode of Legal Tea is the Cautionary Tales topic. And on these episodes, we normally talk about real life cases, real life clients that are things me or my office have worked on, or they are things that I just are generally good things to be aware of so that you do not turn into a cautionary tale on Legal Tea one day. Well, today it's going to be a bit of the latter, and maybe I'll throw in some real life stories. We'll see where this goes. And we're going to chat about things to consider, and I guess maybe more like general tips on selecting an estate or elder law attorney to help you or your family. Now, if you did not know, after law school and the bar exam, we get our law license, which grants the power to practice law really in any kind of field or practice area. And what that means is, we do not come out of law school with like a declared specialty. So if you compare it to, say, like medical school and declaring, say, that you're going into like pediatrics or something, rather, beyond the law license, we also do have ethics rules that say when we practice law, we have to do so with competence in the practice area, which is why, say, if someone came to me to help them file for divorce, could I help them? Well, my law license says yes, but the ethics rules say, Jenny, you've never done that before, so you should not help that person. I mention all of this because it's a bit of a slippery slope. You can imagine some attorneys may dance into some areas that they are not incredibly skilled in, which puts the client possibly at risk, and the client may not even know. So, for today's episode, I thought it would be helpful to go over some things to consider when you are looking for an estate or elder law attorney. And maybe I can come up with some real life stories along the way to exemplify some of these tips and things to consider. So let's dive in. Up first is practice areas or fields. Along the lines of what I just said about lawyers being able to technically do any type of field and practice area, when it comes to dealing with your estate, family, money, I highly recommend that you work with someone that really only does this type of work, rather than someone that does a little bit of a lot of types of fields. And I genuinely do not mean like anything by this, but when it comes to your family and money and your estate plan, you want to be sure you do the best type of plan. And a more generalist, like a general practice attorney that does not truly, really dive into the intricacies about estate planning, way beyond just throwing together like a simple will for you. A general attorney, sure, can do that, can put a very simple plan together, but what if you should be considering more and you don't even know? And that's the scary part. That's the risk, honestly. Sure, doing any type of plan is better than nothing, but if there's one thing that I hear over and over and over again, clients say to me that they just want to make things easy for their family. Well, what if something more thorough than just a simple plan is what would have done that? What I can tell you is that attorneys like me usually have a very set and established process to ensure that you are doing the best type of estate plan for you or your family and your assets. We have a way to like extract important information to make sure we know and understand what we're working with and ultimately what types of estate planning options should be on the table to consider. We quite literally do this every day, day in and day out. Now, a quick note on elder law. Elder law often involves either, say, like asset protection planning for the possibility of long term care down the road. And sometimes it involves exploring options on how to just legally handle someone that is cognitively impaired and may or may not have estate documents. Now, if you want or need elder law services, it is vital to hear me loud and clear on this one. Not all estate attorneys do elder law, guys. In fact, a majority of estate attorneys do not do elder law. So if you need this type of work, you need elder law help, you should really look into an elder law or elder care attorney and not just any old estate attorney. And this is such an important distinction that I cannot say loud enough. So the tip here is look into the attorney's practice areas by looking at their website, their social media accounts, etc., to ensure you are, finding someone that does estate and or elder law, and really that's the heavy majority of what they do. The next step is looking at their bar associations, their national organizations, and or the groups that they belong to. And what do I mean by this? Well, the best way I know how to describe this is professionally speaking, who are they hanging out with? Who are they involving themselves with? Where are they getting information from? I think it's best to use myself as an example. So the groups and the organizations I belong to are like National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys, Lawyers with Purpose, which is a national estate planning organization, and my state bar association. And more specifically, there are two what are called sections that I belong to in the state bar association, which is the trust and probate as well as the elder law. What do you notice? Literally everything is to do with the estate and elder law, right? I use these groups to, any attorneys in these groups use these groups to exchange ideas, to strategize, to stay abreast of state and national law changes, even to advocate for changes in our rules or laws as well. So let's flip the script. Let's say purely by example, I belonged to all groups and organizations about criminal law or family law. I don't have any of what I just mentioned about estate and elder law, right? So maybe the best way to describe this tip is to do some digging on the groups and organizations that the attorney is involved in. Sometimes you can find those groups and organizations in the attorney's bio, like if they have a, really thorough bio on their website, if they have a website. If they do not have a website, or if their bio on the website just doesn't share, I know this sounds kind of weird, but just call and ask. Honestly, I can tell you that we have had people call my office and ask if we belong to like the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. So while it may feel weird, it's not. And even if the attorney's office think it's weird, do you really care? This is your estate, family, and assets we're talking about. It's important to make sure you are working with a qualified attorney. Next up is on the tips is certifications or qualifications. And what I mean by this is there are various certifications that attorneys can seek in the estate and elder law space. Are they required? No, absolutely not. Is it something to possibly consider? Sure. There are a lot of amazing attorneys that have these certifications, and there are also a lot of amazing attorneys that do not have these certifications. What happens is that with these certifications, is that individuals usually have to have been in a specific practice of law, like estate or elder law, for a specific period of time, usually like 5 or 10 years at the least. They also have to take and pass an exam. So what does that tell us? Not only do the individuals have experience in the field, but that they have also passed further testing to be able to call themselves, quote, certified. Now, a few of the well-known and well-respected certifications that kind of may be seen in the estate and elder law space, just to kind of name drop a few. First is board certified trust and estate specialist. Second is being a fellow of the American College of Trust and Estate Counsel. Third is being a certified elder law attorney. And or fourth, another one is American College of Tax Counsel. I think what these certifications, ultimately exhibit is kind of like what I was blabbing about earlier about practice areas and fields. An attorney that dabbles in like a handful of different fields is very, very, very likely not going to embark on getting certified because it's possible that their depth of understanding of that field would not be enough to pass a really tough exam. The last tip, the last thing to possibly consider when selecting an estate or elder law attorney is age. Now, this may surprise you, but hear me out. Do you want to know how many families and clients I meet with that will say, I did this plan years ago and I'm pretty sure the attorney that did it is either retired or maybe dead? In my experience, the fields of estate and elder law tend to be more of a relationship, not just a transaction. If you think about it, so many things change all the time. Family setup, family dynamics, assets, health, and those things that change often necessitate changes to the estate plan. I think there's something to be said for age. People often directly correlate that with experience. And of course, there's something for sure to be said for experience too. But I would not put as much stock on age as I would experience, quite literally. You see, I went to law school at night while working full time during the day. Yes, it was loony, but I survived. Um, Many of my classmates were doing the exact same. And in fact, the oldest person in my class was in his 60s. So when he was done with school and the bar exam, he was technically a new attorney. You see my point? Just because someone is older does not directly mean that they have this tremendous amount of experience. Kind of along these same lines, I will never forget. Here's a quick story. Many years ago, probably like maybe 10 years ago, I was meeting with a client, and the husband, near the end of the meeting, asked me, the husband said, "May I ask how old you are?" And initially, I was caught off guard and thought he was going to be concerned about, at that time, my limited experience. I told him my age. I think I was in like my mid 20s. And he said, "Oh, good. Okay, so if life takes its normal course, you will be around to help my family with all of this." There's something to be said for that, right? I actually, another little side story, I actually just had to track down a retired attorney. Just a few weeks ago, I had to track this gentleman down to sign off on an affidavit because he had made an error on a deed. And signing an affidavit saying he made the error was going to be a lot easier than having to clean things up. So, age is worth consideration too. It would have been really difficult if we could not find him and or have him sign off on this affidavit because of his being retired. So just to quickly recap, the four things I discussed as tips in selecting an estate and elder law attorney were: first, practice areas or fields. Is estate and or elder law what the attorney does? Sorry, that's my dog. Does day in and day out. Second, groups, organizations, associations. Like, where is the attorney hanging out in terms of talking shop and strategies? Third is certifications. Do they possess any specialized certifications in the estate and elder law space? And fourth, age. Do you care if the attorney is likely not going to be around when you pass away or when your family needs help? I'm sure I'm missing a few other tips too. But when I was putting this episode together, these are just kind of the first ones that kind of popped into my head. So nonetheless, I hope it was helpful. Alrighty, let's shift to a sneak peek of next week, which we are circling back to the current trends topic, where on those we talk about things that are going on currently that impact my estate and elder law world. Or maybe they're things I've stumbled across on the news or social media that are relevant to this podcast. Well, next week, I kept searching and searching and searching for things to chat about on here, and it finally hit me. Well, it'll be a little bit delayed, but tis the season of back to school time. And there is something that's frequently missed when talking about back to school time, and that's college kiddos and possibly getting some basic documents in place for them just in case something happens to them while they're at school or maybe they're studying abroad. So, we will chat about estate planning for college kids next time, Legal Tea listeners. So, until then, be well and talk soon.